Have you always dreamed of being a published author and maybe you just finished your first or second or third manuscript and you're ready to take the jump into publication? Today we talk about the different ways you can get published and which one might be best for you. Hello and welcome to The Right Mama with Jennifer Aline. I am a freelance writer, a blogger, social media manager, and my debut women's fiction novel is coming out hopefully by the end of 2020 through a small traditional publishing house. Today we are talking about the different ways of publication that a new author can choose to go. And it can be a little confusing if you really are so determined to get your book out there and you're not really sure which route of publication is best for you. And there are three-ish main ways that you can get published. And we are going to go through a few different things that might put you on the right path towards which one works for your book. We're going to talk a little bit about traditional publishing. Traditional publishing is when you query an agent, you get an editor, usually in one of the big 5 publishing houses, which we'll talk about, and you get your book out there. Number 2 is self-publishing that we're going to talk about. And self-publishing is when you are the one to find the editors, find someone for cover art, you give the money out to find those people, and then you make a little bit more back in the end, but you do it all. 3, we are going to talk about working with small presses or collegiate presses. And those are they're in the traditional publishing realm. However, the person who works with a small press has more of a team behind them, more of a say, and we'll get into more about what a small press and collegiate press is also. And last, we're going to touch upon what hybrid publishing is. And really what hybrid publishing is just a combination of everything. You might want to try the traditional route for one book, then you might want to self-publish a series or something like that. So those are the 4 routes of publication we are going to talk about today. And we're going to go through a few things that you might find work best for you when it comes to a certain form of publication. The first point we are going to talk about is if you, the author, want your book on every shelf and every bookstore across the United States, on into other countries, you probably want to go the traditional publishing route. When it comes to traditional publishing, you have to query agents, and I've talked about that. I'll link that video below. You have to query agents. Agents are people who help you get into the world of the editors in the big publishing houses who then publish your book, get it out there. If it's approved, there's a whole process. I've talked about it before. But if you want your book on every single shelf all over the world, that's great, but it does take a little bit of time and there is a bit of a process. And not everybody realizes that. They think that, oh, I can just submit my book, get it out there, and bam, it's on every shelf. No, not really. What you need to do is query the agent. The agent helps you find an editor. You submit to the editors. They decide if they want to buy that book from you, and then they start getting the book out there. And they're the ones who also take some of the money in the end. So if you're somebody who wants your book on every single shelf everywhere, traditional publishing is probably for you. The second point we are going to talk about is if you want to choose your own editors and have a huge say in what your cover art looks like, you might want to go the self-publishing route. In traditional publishing, you don't get as much of a say when it comes to what your cover art really looks like. You get a little bit of say, but you don't really get to design it fully. Self-publishing, you get to do it. You get to hire the person who's going to do your cover art, or the team, or the company that's going to do the cover art. You get to decide which editor, which freelance editor or team of editors, there should be a few, that you want to hire to work with your book. With traditional publishing, you don't usually get that say. You get to just kind of go for the ride and hope that somebody's out there to work with you and wants to work with your book. The third point we're going to talk about today is if you want to be involved with getting your book onto most shelves out there, maybe you're not huge into, it doesn't need to be nationwide, maybe local bookstores, statewide bookstores, but you want to be involved with the process, you may want to look into editors at small publishing houses or small presses or collegiate presses. These are seen as traditional publishing houses. And actually, I'm going to be getting my book published through a small press. And these are very, very small versions of the big five. They focus on the team of authors they have, which can be from 5 authors to 20 authors to 100 authors. It's usually a much smaller group than those with the big houses. And you get a little bit more say. You can communicate with your team. You can talk about some of the editing, whether or not maybe you agree with this, don't agree with that. You get more of a say with your story. And the little bit of a downfall with a small press is, no, you don't get your book on every single shelf everywhere across the world, but you can work with your editor to say, hey, I want my book on the shelves at Barnes & Noble here, here, and here, and here. Let's make it happen. And you can do signings there. You can have your book on shelves. However, when it comes to small presses, they don't have the big reach that an agent or an editor at a big house has. However, it's really nice to have that small team really supporting you, working with you. And if that's something that you want, you may not be exactly sure how the publishing world works, but you have a team that can help you understand it more. Working with a small press or a collegiate press may be for you. Fourth point we're going to talk about is if you write in multiple genres, being a hybrid author may work best for your style of writing. When I say hybrid, again, that means you might want to try it all. And sometimes it's hard to start off writing in lots of different genres and get picked up by a big house or even sometimes a small press. They may not take all those genres. So maybe you want to get an agent for, let's say, women's fiction or for young adult. You work with that agent and you get some books out through some publishing houses with that genre. And then let's say maybe you really are into fantasy and you want to write a fantasy series. You can do that through self-publishing. You can do that. However, you don't want to take that series and then go try to get an agent for it if it's already published. If it's already published, you will not get picked up by an agent. You will not get picked up by a small press unless you're a very, very rare special unicorn out there. I took that from Natalia. She said that. She calls people unicorns. But only if you're one of those special unicorns do you get picked up and get that to happen for you. So if you write in a bunch of different genres, trying out the hybrid route might be best for you and focus on one book, one genre, choose which route is for you, and then later on, you can pick up another and maybe self-publish it if you want. Fifth point we're going to talk about is kind of what I've mentioned a bunch of times, and that is maybe you're somebody who has always wanted to be published in a big 5 publishing house. And when I say big 5, let's see if I can get them all. I mean Penguin Random House, Hachette, I'm not sure how you say it, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster, and HarperCollins. I did it! Yes, those are the big 5 publishing houses that are really well known. If you're a writer or a reader, you've heard of Penguin, you've heard of HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, you've heard of those houses. And yes, there's a lot of imprints. There's a lot of people who work for those houses, and it can be very tough getting into them. However, if you have always wanted to be in a big 5, you're going to want to go the traditional route. Of course, you can be a hybrid author. You can start off with a small press. You can start off self-publishing and then find another book and send it off to the agents. For example, I'm probably going to look at myself as kind of a hybrid author because I'm right now getting published with a small press, but in the future, I may want to try to get an agent and try to get into one of the big 5. But it's okay if you're all over the place. Being a hybrid author is awesome. But if you really just want to be picked up by one of those big 5 publishing houses, you're going to want to go the traditional route, query agents, and then work with those agents and those editors and really, really work hard to get in those big 5 houses. Number 6 is if you're somebody who wants to release your books quick and on your own schedule, you will want self-publishing. And fast release is a really big thing out in the self-publishing world because the more books you have out there, the more money you're going to make and the bigger following you're going to make. And with self-publishing, you can make your own schedule. You can put books out as often as you want. Kennedy Fox is it's a romance author team, and they put books out all the time. Bam, bam, fast release, just keep on coming. They're doing great. They've hit the USA bestseller list. They're awesome, and they started off with self-publishing. So if you're somebody who wants to fast release books, write quick, get them out, you're going to want self-publishing, because traditional publishing with the big five houses takes a few years to get that book out. And sometimes that book doesn't get picked up by the big houses. For a small press, it takes about a year ish to get your book out there. But some people are like, no, I want it out in 6 months. I want it out in 5 months. Self-publishing is the way to go for you. 7, I think it's 7, is if you want a personal relationship with your team of fellow authors and your editorial team, a small press or a collegiate press may be great for you. You get to really work on a personal level with your editors, with your team. And also you can, I'm involved in a Facebook group with the other authors that are in my small press family. It kind of becomes a family. And even though, yes, for the big houses, it can be like that too, but there's thousands and thousands of authors just in an imprint sometimes. So it's really hard to kind of connect on that personal level. When you have an agent, it's different. You can really connect on a personal level with your agent. But for the publication and editorial team, if you really want to communicate, almost on a daily basis, a weekly basis, and get quick feedback, a small press is a much more intimate group that can really get back to you. I often am Facebook messaging with my editor. We're communicating, we talk, we do live streams with our other authors. So if you really want that connection with your team, your authorly, writerly team, a small press may be for you. Number 8 is if you want to write a series right off the bat. Being a hybrid author, starting with self-publishing, is probably what you want to try. And I say this because a lot of agents and editors, even at small houses, don't always want to take a chance on a new author when it comes to a series. You can't compare yourself to J.K. Rowling either. It also took her a long time to sell Harry Potter and get out there. But some people don't want to take a chance on a 3-book or a 7-book series if they don't know if that first book is even going to sell. So if you're someone who's like, no, this is going to be a series, you may want to start off with self-publishing. Get that series out there, get an awesome following, keep up the marketing for it, and kick butt in the self-publishing world with that series. And then maybe write something else that could be a series or is just a standalone book, and either query to agents or query to small press editors or self-publish that. And that kind of makes you a hybrid author, because you would have a self-published series, and then maybe if you get picked up by an agent, you become a traditional author as well. So choosing the hybrid route, if you really are passionate about starting your book career off with a series, may be what you want to try. We're going to go through each of these routes of publication and kind of give you one last little tidbit of info. 9, if you want your book on all the platforms, all the shelves that are out there, but you want to not be as involved with the publishing process, you just want to write and get it out there, traditional publishing is probably for you. However, it's not that easy. You can't just get it out there. You have to, like I've said, query, work with your agent, lots of edits, hope that someone at a big house picks you up, and then get it out there. But if you're someone who's very determined to make sure your book is on every platform out there and every state, every country, and just do the writing and not be as involved with the cover art, with the whole publishing process, traditional publishing is probably for you. Number 10 is if you want full creative control and to be your own boss and have every say when it comes to your book, your series, your authorly career, self-publishing is what you want to do. And it's unfortunate that a lot of people look down on self-publishing, because there are terrific authors out there who are making a good amount of money working full-time as an author who are self-published. I'll give you an example. Sarah Cannon with Heart Breathings. Check out her stuff. She is a miraculous mama who is a self-published author. And Jenna Moresi. She is awesome too, and she's self-published. And these are 2 full-time authors who are in the self-published world, making their own choices, being their own bosses. So if that's something that looks wonderful for you, check out self-publishing. 11 is if you want your book on most platforms, most major platforms, and you want some involvement with the publishing process, check out some small publishing houses. A lot of small publishing editors start off really getting knowledgeable about the field, experiencing maybe the self-publishing side of it, or maybe some have been agents or worked at a big house. And then they decide to start their own business, start publishing some books, give themselves some experience, and then pick up new authors and publish their books. So a lot of the editors of these teams have been through the process and have been there. Some have been in the big houses, been in the field. Others have been writers as long as they can remember and wanted to publish other people's books. So for small houses, you really do get that connection. You get that genuine communication, and it's more often than with other types of publication. So if you want some involvement and you want to be on a whole bunch of platforms, just maybe not in every single country all over the world, small presses or college presses may be your thing. Is if you want a little bit of everything, be a hybrid author. Like I said, I'm probably, hopefully, going to end up being a hybrid author. My goal is still to get an agent someday. But right now I'm focusing on the work I'm doing with my small press, getting my debut book out. I'm going to start writing another women's fiction book very soon. And I'm really excited to build my readership through this small press. And maybe someday I will just stick with being a small press, and maybe I won't want to be a hybrid author. That's fine. You really have so many choices on what you want to do. And that's why I made this video, so you can kind of see where you kind of are when it comes to the different routes of publishing. So I really hope that this helped clarify maybe kind of ish where your brain is at when it comes to your book. So thank you very much for listening. I hope this was helpful. Click subscribe down below. If you liked this kind of content, please comment and let me know what route of publication you're interested in, or which route you went, or what you kind of hope your future looks like when it comes to writing. Comment with that. Also, ding, 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 ring the bell, give me a thumbs up if this is some stuff you liked. I post every Friday, and if you ring the bell, you'll get notified as to when I post. So thank you very much. Stay creative, and of course, drink the coffee, all the time.